Story 1.
I had just moved into a charming little apartment in the heart of the city. It was cozy and everything I had ever wanted, but little did I know, my dream home would soon become a nightmare. At first, the odd occurrences were easy to dismiss. Misplaced keys, a flickering light, and the occasional creaking of the floorboards. I attributed them to the quirks of an old building. But as the days turned into weeks, the strange happenings escalated. One night, as I lay in bed reading, I heard a soft whisper coming from the corner of the room. My heart raced as I looked around, convinced I was alone. My mind tried to rationalize it as a draft or my imagination, but the whisper grew louder, more distinct. Words I couldn't quite make out, carried by a voice that was both unsettling and chilling. My unease grew with each passing day. I started to feel like I was being watched, especially when I was alone. There were moments when I caught fleeting glimpses of shadows darting around corners, disappearing just as quickly as they appeared. The feeling of being unwelcome settled in, and I found myself avoiding certain rooms in the apartment. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to confront whatever was haunting my home. Armed with a flashlight, I ventured into the darkest corners of the apartment. As I reached the hallway, the temperature dropped suddenly, and a cold breeze brushed against my skin. I shined the light into the empty space, hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever was responsible for my unease. And then I saw it, a faint outline, a distortion in the air that seemed to take on a human form. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the apparition, frozen in fear. It stood there, its presence almost palpable, as if it was trying to communicate something. I managed to tear my gaze away and stumbled back into my bedroom, slamming the door shut. That night, I hardly slept. The next morning, I decided to research the history of the building. It was then that I discovered the truth. A tragic incident had occurred years ago in the very apartment I now called home. A tenant had died under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I reached out to a medium in the hopes of finding a way to communicate with the spirit. The medium confirmed my suspicions. The apartment was indeed haunted by the restless spirit of the previous tenant, a soul trapped between worlds. With the medium's guidance, I attempted to communicate with the spirit, hoping to bring closure to its unfinished business. As the seance began, the room grew colder, and a soft whisper filled the air. The medium channeled the spirit's voice, relaying messages of sorrow and longing. Over time, as we continued to communicate, the apartment's atmosphere shifted. The once unseen presence became less malevolent, and I could feel a sense of acceptance and even gratitude. Through our sessions, I learned that the spirit had been seeking forgiveness for a mistake that had led to its untimely death. As the spirit's story was told, a sense of peace settled over the apartment. The strange occurrences ceased, and the feeling of being watched faded away. I had helped a tormented soul find solace, and in doing so, I found my own sense of closure. Moving forward, I lived in harmony with the unseen roommate. Though I couldn't see it, I felt its presence from time to time, a gentle reminder that even in the realm of the supernatural, compassion and understanding could bridge the gap between the living and the dead.
Story 2.
It was a chilly autumn evening, and I was just about to settle in for a quiet night at home. My parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving me alone in our big old house. Around 8 p.m., I heard a faint knock on the door. I opened it to find a delivery guy, holding a small package in his hands. "Delivery for you," he said with an unnervingly cheerful smile. I was puzzled because I hadn't ordered anything, but he insisted it was mine and handed me the box. The package was small and wrapped in plain brown paper. There was no return address, no label, nothing to indicate where it came from. I shrugged it off, assuming it was some sort of mistake or maybe a surprise gift from a friend. I took it inside and placed it on the kitchen table. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to open the box. As I peeled away the layers of paper, I began to feel a strange sense of unease. Inside the box was a small wooden figurine, a creepy-looking doll with its eyes painted in a deep, unsettling shade of black. Its mouth was curved into a sinister smile that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't understand why someone would send me something like this. I picked up the doll, examining it closely, and that's when I noticed a small slip of paper hidden beneath it. With trembling hands, I pulled out the paper and read the message scrawled in red ink. "You're not alone." My heart raced as fear gnawed at my mind. I glanced around the room, feeling like I was being watched. I shook off the unease, convincing myself it was just a prank, albeit a twisted one. I decided to call a friend to calm my nerves. As I dialed my friend's number, the lights in the house flickered. I froze, staring at the doll in my hand, its eyes seemingly glowing in the dim light. Before I could react, I heard a creaking sound, footsteps. They were faint, barely audible, but unmistakably there. Panic surged through me, and I ended the call. I moved cautiously through the house, my heart pounding in my chest. The footsteps seemed to echo all around me, growing louder and more distinct. It was as if someone, or something, was moving through the shadows just out of my line of sight. Terrified, I grabbed a heavy candlestick from a nearby table, ready to defend myself if necessary. The footsteps led me to the basement door, which was slightly ajar. My breath hitched as I considered the possibility that someone had broken in. With trembling hands, I pushed the door open and descended into the darkness. The basement was cold and musty, and I could still hear the footsteps echoing around me. I gripped the candlestick tighter, my knuckles turning white, and slowly moved forward. As I reached the far corner of the basement, I finally caught a glimpse of movement, a shadowy figure standing in the darkness. My heart raced, and I raised the candlestick, ready to confront whatever was there. But as I swung the candlestick through the air, it met nothing but empty space. The figure had vanished, and the footsteps had ceased. I stood there, my breathing heavy, the doll still clutched in my hand. Was it all my imagination? Was I going crazy? I rushed back upstairs, determined to get rid of the doll and put an end to this nightmare. But when I reached the kitchen, the box was gone. The doll was gone. There was no trace of the strange package that had started this terrifying ordeal. To this day, I can't explain what happened that night. Was it a prank, a hallucination, or something far more sinister? I moved out of that house soon after, unable to shake the feeling that I was being watched, that I was never truly alone. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I still hear faint footsteps echoing in the darkness, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved.
Story 3.
I've always been fascinated by technology, so when I stumbled upon a new app called Fate Weaver, I couldn't resist downloading it. The app promised to predict future events based on data analysis and user input. At first, it seemed like harmless fun, with predictions ranging from the weather to sports outcomes. But as days turned into weeks, the predictions grew uncannily accurate, especially when it came to my personal life. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I received a notification from Fate Weaver. The message read, "Beware the darkened alley." I glanced at it dismissively, attributing it to some algorithmic coincidence. But as I walked home that night, my curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself hesitating near a dimly lit alley. The sound of footsteps echoed behind me, and a shiver ran down my spine. I quickened my pace, glancing over my shoulder. There in the shadows, I caught a fleeting glimpse of a figure, its features obscured by darkness. Panic surged through my veins as I rushed home, locking every door and window. The following day, the app's notifications took a more sinister tone. "They know your secrets," it warned. My heart raced as I racked my brain, wondering what secrets the app could possibly be alluding to. I tried to brush it off, chalking it up to a clever marketing gimmick meant to keep users engaged. But as the days passed, the predictions grew eerily specific. The app seemed to have access to information that only I knew, including private conversations and past regrets. Each notification left me feeling exposed and vulnerable, and the fear that someone was watching my every move took hold. One night, as I was preparing for bed, my phone buzzed with a message from Fate Weaver. "Set yourself free," it urged. Confusion and fear swirled in my mind. What did the message mean? I stared at my reflection in the mirror, questioning my own sanity. As I looked into the mirror, my reflection began to change. The reflection's expression twisted into a sinister grin, eyes darkening. I stumbled back, my heart pounding. I turned away from the mirror, but when I looked again, my reflection was normal. Doubt gnawed at me as I tried to reason with myself. The app was just code, right? But the predictions continued, each message digging deeper into my psyche. I felt like a puppet in the hands of an unseen puppeteer, the notifications manipulating my emotions. Desperation gripped me. I couldn't escape the app's influence, and its relentless predictions were driving me to the brink of madness. My friends noticed the change in my behavior, my paranoia, and my inability to escape the grip of Fate Weaver. I knew I had to break free. With determination, I deleted the app and shut off my phone. For a brief moment, there was silence. But as I gazed at the blank screen, a flicker of light caught my eye. My reflection appeared on the phone's dark surface, and the grin on my reflection's face deepened, mirroring my own growing fear. In that moment, I realized that Fate Weaver wasn't just an app. It was an enigmatic force that had ensnared my mind. I had unwittingly unlocked a doorway to my darkest thoughts and fears, and now I was trapped in its insidious game. As the room darkened around me, I knew I had to find a way to escape the suffocating grasp of the app before it consumed me completely.